same time, I'm not even sure whether this part will come out, but then we'll see what the universe have in mind, what we're gonna talk about. It's not in my control anyway, or any of us.
Totally.
I'm gonna take out this white thing because this is to differentiate the different. Okay.
Okay, everyone.
Are we live now?
Yes.
Hello. Welcome back to Timeless Conversations.
Yeah, welcome everybody to another episode of Timeless Conversations. We have here today
We have
Eddie
a guest.
yes, we have
Yes.
Taraka with us again today.
Welcome back, Taraka.
Thank you for inviting me back. So I kind of assume like what we talk about is a lot of fun and valuable. That's why I'm back.
Oh yeah, what are we talking about today?
I don't know. What do you
What's
guys
the
want to talk about?
surprise today?
Was it? Yeah.
It's a surprise today.
So we talk about waking up, right?
Yeah.
So what is it to wake up? Is there different ways of waking up? Different aspects in life?
Yes and no.
Okay, let's hear it.
But before we go into the main topic itself, I would love to hear from both of you. Since we can't hear from the audience, what is the definition of waking up? Because all of us has very many different concepts of what that is. So maybe that might.
Are we still with her?
Who?
She froze.
Oh, she broke.
Anyways, she will come back.
So her question was clear. She said
her
that.
question was very clear, and she asked, "What is the concept? What we understand with waking up? Correct? Is that correct? What she says?"
Yeah.
Well, if we go back to 1999, we have a movie called Matrix. So according to that concept, when people woke up.
Sorry.
Oh, hi Taraka. So I was
okay.
talking about the concept of waking up. So I brought us back to 1999 when the movie Matrix was first launched.
Yeah.
And in people's concept is that waking up is like there's a time where Neo, Keanu Reeves, he sees himself in a womb, like a placenta, and he disconnects this cable from his back of his head, and that's where he sees himself waking up from the matrix, the machine world, and then he realizes he's dressed like not so fancy, not so fashionable, and everything's like a bit colorless, like brownish, grayish, not like the outer world of the matrix, which is very well designed and beautiful. So maybe what people out there might be understanding with the concept of waking up, it's a kind of okay, the matrix is actually not the real world. Maybe there's something underlying all this. So maybe waking up is unhooking from that cable, from all the society concepts, the laws in nature, like law of gravity, law of everything, and realize that maybe we're not designed for this, or maybe we were assigned to live this kind of reality blindly, perhaps, or in a slumber mode, like sleeping. So maybe we could use that reference, but if you girls have any other reference, you're more than welcome to share.
Julia?
For me, when we talk about waking up, it could be like the very first time. I can use the Neo reference as well. Like in a sense that you realize that there is more to, when you first have the realization that there is more to life than roles, the reality that you're in. There is actually something that is beyond, and there's a reality that is beyond. It's almost like putting on that this reality is almost like a part of a stage play. So in my reference, it's more like waking up is equivalent to that seeing that actually we are plugged into something, and that when we unplug it, or when you wake up, it's more like seeing that this reality is a kind of like a creation or an illusion. It looks real, but there is an awareness that is out of it. So that waking up is that waking up also to that observer that of this reality, that there's an observation, that there's an awareness out of it. That is what I'm saying. Waking up, I don't want it to be confused. It's enlightenment. Some people might say that, so wake up means what? You think you're enlightened? Well, that's another conversation altogether. But I'm just talking about that awareness of.
What about you, Taraka? Thank you, Julia, Dr. Julia, for sharing.
I love the analogy of Neo. The Matrix is like one of my favorite movie of all time, because to me it's one of the most conscious movie. I don't know if everyone agrees with me. When I watched it the first time, I couldn't quite understand because it really grasped my attention. But I watched it like 200 times. It's exaggerating, but I watch it a lot because every time I watch it, I pick up something. And the part about unplugging is literally it. When we wake up, we're like unplugging from all our conditioned experience, everything that's filtered through our past, everything that's filtered through our concept, everything that's filtered through what's not real. So it's literally like what Julia is saying too. It's like you wake up, it's almost like a dream. You're dreaming a moment, then the next thing you know, you go, oh, and you get to see. The seeing is not just visually seeing, because awareness is not just what call limited to a particular sense. Every part of you can see and feel and touch the reality, what we call the underlying reality of all that is, right? And I'm glad Julia brought this up about the word enlightenment, because a lot of people just have this misconception. Enlightenment is a really overrated word, right? And a lot of times it's connected with religion and this and that. So we move away from that. But waking up, to be honest, first of all, we're all awake when we come into this human experience. Every one of us, we are awake. It just, as we grow up, we collect experience, we live life, we learn things to be safe, we learn things, so that we can calculate, we can drive a car, we learn things, right? We take out all this experience in life, and the more our mind is collecting all of this, the part of us that is awake starts to be what we call put into the background instead of the foreground. Does that make sense? Like our experience as a child when we're born to this world, if you look at any baby, you look at any child, they're very alert and awake and cheerful and happy and loving. All of that, what waking up means. But as they grow up, they start to think and they start to worry and they start to do all kinds of things that human does. They simply just, it's there still. It's no longer in the foreground. The innocence, the being present, all of that starts to move into the background. And slowly, we kind of not really aware of it as we collect more things in life that we feel are more important, right? I'm not saying every one of us does that, but most of us, we simply like, going out, we have good grades. We, after we left school, we need to have a good job and we want to have good boyfriends or girls. All of that thing that are kind of expected of us, the conditioning, the society expectation. So it's still there, but then it moves back and it become a background thing instead of like in our life consistently. So for me, waking up is just realizing our background actually has always been there. And not only that, it comes forth now. And it moves into our daily life, it moves into our daily experience in every moment. So to me, that's what waking up is. Yes, it's like waking up from a dream, but then all of a sudden, like you have this clarity that you never have. Not that you never have, but you're not aware it's there. You just all of a sudden go, oh my God, is that what it is? Right? So how to get there, how people get there, your question before we even started this is, is there a lot of ways to do it, or is there a lot of yes and no? Because many of us do that, wake up from so many different ways. Like there's so many roads to roam. But waking up to this, there's only one. There's only one experience. That's my experience anyway. It's not like so many little experience make up to where I'm at. But I experience life now is still this one big experience that never stops. It is a continuous expansion of this one experience. It's not like chopped up into many millions of experiences collected.
Well,
So
There's something interesting. Just two words that you said to me that made that struck me was you used the word baby and you also used the word conditioning. One of the things I realized that is one of the biggest striking conditioning. We think when we hear conditioning, we think about teachings from early stage, like parenting or maybe society and things like that. But one of the first things I think that we feel and we don't realize that is gravity, for example, the law of gravity. So the way we stand up and balance ourselves, this is the first conditioning, like that we immediately get the impact, but we just get so used to it. Like you see, if a baby will take the object and just drop on the ground on the floor all the time, because the baby is amazed, like, oh my God. So the baby drops like the spoon, and the parents keep picking it up. So for the baby, it's something amazing, like to see a spoon fall. Even that, it's like wow. So this is what happens if I open my hand and then the spoon falls. So the baby is discovering that first steps of conditioning, like the first teachings or the first experience of what is to live in a world where there's gravity, for example. And number two, that you mentioned, baby, also is that the ancient ones, they talk about there are two times in life that we are deliberately awoken, regardless of anything, regardless of awareness or anything like that, is that when we are about to be born, our brain releases a substance called DMT. And they call that, in other cultures, they call it the divine nectar, or they can call it third eye, they can call it whatever, but this is a substance that comes from the brain, and it's released. And at that moment is the first time we're aware of everything, the universe, existence, ourselves, everything. And this happens twice minimum in our life. The second time is when we are about to die, and our body knows it's about to cease to exist. And then, when people say like near death experience, or when you're about to die, you see all these images of everything flashing, like since you're born until today, the moment you're gonna die, everything just flashes a few seconds, but it looks like a whole lifetime. So that's another time where DMT is released, and that's a time where you're kind of timeless, and you're realizing that, oh, okay, so this is existence, this is how I existed, and this was my character, for example. But what I would like to share about awakening is that many times we think that, okay, now I'm awakened, I've been awakened for a few years now. And I first realized in around 2000. Yeah, I realized things around 2000. I start realizing that time is just a measurement. Time doesn't really exist. It's just how we measure something, because we need to place things in time and space so that we can assess an event. But awakening is not something that once you're awake, you can never go back to sleep. When we are awake, we're punctually at that moment, present, we are awake. Oh, so does that mean we go back to sleep? Yes, we're constantly sleeping and awaking all the time. We're constantly waking up to an experience, waking up to a presence or reality or event. The idea that we are constantly awakened, therefore we will reach a permanent enlightenment. I don't know about that really, but I think every time we are mindful and we are fully here, we can call it awakened. It's just a word, actually. It's a conceptual word. I don't know what it is actually, but I still don't access experientially in actuality that, okay, I'm awakened and I'm always awakened, so this is where I blossom the first time, and I'll stay like this until I get lighter, for example. You know what I mean? Because sometimes we catch ourselves distracted. Sometimes we catch ourselves maybe not so aware, perhaps. So yeah. So does that mean, because the movie Matrix is very interesting on the part of the disconnecting from the Matrix, but does that mean that when we're distracted and maybe not so aware, that cable is back into the back of our heads? You know what I mean? So the answer could be possibly yes, because after Neo woke up from the Matrix, he keeps coming back and forth. He has these little missions to go back to Matrix and come out and drive the fancy cars and wear those special suits with very fashionable eyeglasses. So that's also very important to observe.
Yeah. So actually, I also wanted to comment on what Taraka said in a similar fashion, to just question about this thing about expansion. I actually think that analogy of that unplugging may not be so accurate after all. Like what Eddie was saying, that is when you're unplugged, you should be unplugged continuously. But probably the flaw in that metaphor is that when we see something, my my own experience is that there is a continual there's a continual, once you see you're still a fish in water, you see if you're a fish in water, you're still in the water, you have this body, you have this environment and so on. And this, what you said just now about this constant revisiting, it's almost like you still encounter your scaffolding, what you're made up of, what you're conditioned with. And there's a constant invitation to keep on burning up things, burning up strongholds of beliefs, strongholds of conditioning and all that. And you keep on encountering bits and parts of it. And to me, expansion is part of that continual invitation to burn up. But even though I would agree that it might not be like a continuous, it's not an arrival. Later, maybe we can talk about it. It's not like an enlightenment, but I would like to say that I don't ever feel that you are back at 0 point again. You know what I mean? It's like you wake up, you might go back to sleep. There might be dull moments, but it's not a 0 point. It's not like suddenly you turn idiot again.
I can agree with that, because once you get a glimpse of that vision, it's very difficult or almost impossible to unsee it. That striking moment may be striking for the rest of our lives, but there
Right, it
is,
could be a memory.
I think there is the 0 point, not 0 point in terms of ignorance of not knowing anything at all anymore, but the 0 point, I would call it, I don't know if you girls remember when Neo encounters the architect, and there's this white room full of monitors, and there Neo is able to see all his emotions, every event, and things like that. In that room where the architect who built the matrix, he's there. It's like, it's a timeless place. I don't know if we can even call it a place, but that's we call it, I don't know, an awareness perhaps. But there's no place and time there because time doesn't run there. And Neo is able to see every aspect of his existence and life and everything before and after he was born too. So I would call that 0 point, where even before our stories began, we are always there, that point.
You mean the point of where you're totally uninscribed? So we are talking about two different things. You're talking at about a point where we are totally uninscribed by any conditioning and so on. And I was referring to 0, like a point of unseeing before we see.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think that point includes that too. It's where everything and nothing happens at the same time.
Okay.
Um, we can see the stories of Neo. We can see before the Matrix was built. Everything is pure awareness. It goes beyond before, after, and timelessly every aspect of whatever ever existed, or the big vacuum of non-existence, and just awareness.
Yeah. So okay, just very quickly, I'm just saying that just now what I was referring to, we will not go back to a point of before then. If you want to use 0 point to refer to that, then would like to just say that it's just that it's very hard to unsee. I just want to leave it as that, because that was what I wanted to bring about the point of expansion, because I want to focus on what goes into this expansion. And I remember, I don't know, I just think that once my own experience is that once I saw that I'm more than this reality, it was really a path of discomfort. That's great discomfort all the time, confronting a lot of how I'm made up, how I'm constituted, and constantly being invited to let go of it, or see through it. It's not a comfortable process, like for some time, and before it gets worse before it gets better. That's what my experience
That's
is.
very, very relevant, because this is something I brought up, I think, in our last podcast, is that once we see it, once we wake up and we see ourselves like dressed in these rags, not so fashionable, out of the matrix, it's not pleasant. It's colorless. There's a big difference between when you're wearing this long leather jacket in the Matrix and when you are at this other place called Zion, where everybody's like wearing old rags and colorless and just eating porridge. I literally am in that mode of eating just porridge every day, all the same food. Because this really impacted my diet. I'm eating the same thing every day.
Well, wait a minute. But yes, I would say not only porridge first, I would even say hellfire and also brimstone, maybe some days. But it gets worse before it gets better. I will also want to say that there will be moments of a new kind of experience of bliss that I never had before. So it was first the seeing, then it was hailfire, brimstone, and many the times like shit ass kind of into the dumpster, or maybe in the drain still. But more and more, it seems that there's a growing sense of resting into something that is more unchangingly peaceful. More and more, it seems to those stretches. So I would say, if there's any expansion to be had, is the experience of that stretching, or that moments of peace that is sweet, and it's beyond explanation.
Thank you for sharing that. I want to ask Taraka a question.
What?
You seem to be a person that practices gratitude every day. So let me ask you then. When you first awoke and you got awakened, and let's say you practice this gratitude almost like daily, for many years, for example. Okay, I will assume you do that. If I'm wrong, please correct me. In the beginning, when we practice like praise or gratefulness, and we're like exploding in joy, and it's so amazing. This is like such a wonderful experience. Well, I wanted to ask you, as years go by, I don't mean that we don't feel all of that, but does that shift into like being more sober and more focused, rather than as emotional as in the beginning? Does that turn into a more like awareness and like a more sober and clarity?
What's the last word?
Clarity.
Oh, clarity. Okay.
Does that happen that way? Because I'm just drawing like a timeline between when you wake and then you practice gratitude throughout the years. Here you may be very euphoric and excited, and then as time went by and you're still practicing gratitude, for example, after a wake, and Is it something like more clear, more clarity and sober, and rather than more emotional, let's say? I don't know if I'm using the right terms. Could you please share on that?
Actually, you're right, Eddie. If you never asked me that question, I never thought about that. This in the way that you put it. And thank you for asking that, because it really make me. I have a aha moment right now. Aha, I can tell you because you're gonna ask me to drop it. Joke aside, when I first waking up is not just this one big bang and then like your light is off and all of a sudden your light is on. It's not quite that. If you want to help a layman understand, it is, to me, the waking up is more like you start to become aware. When I first start to become realize there's more to life than what I'm experiencing. Because I was angry, I was depressed, I was sad, I was a victim, blah blah blah, all of that. And I just kind of I kind of wake up and I go, I'm none of that. That's like waking up. Because when you realize you're not all this crap that you are, that's part of waking up. And from there, of course, I continue to practice what we call this praise, this gratitude. At first, it felt, because at the time, I didn't have anyone to help me, guide me. My meditation teacher taught me, and then they left to go back to the space. So I'm kind of like been left alone to figure out my way out of this and try to make sense out of my experience. But this praise and gratitude starts to become bigger. Like what I said earlier, it used to be a background, because come on, Asian people, that's the last thing we are taught is to praise people. Because if you talk to anyone, first thing they always find something is wrong or they criticize, because we are taught that way. And sometimes we even use the word constructive criticism. And I'm very comfortable in criticizing people, but I think that's BS, How about creative? Anyway, so this praise, this gratitude, at first I thought it's my emotion, because I start to feel happy, I start to feel joyful, and I'm giggling more, and I'm less angry and all of that. But as I continue to experience that, and later on, after a year or two, I start to receive the guidance that I needed to help me understand what I'm experiencing. And then I realized this at first starts to be thought as an emotion. It's not. Actually, there is an emotional part of the experience, yes, because it affects our emotion, all our senses. But then as I move to receive guidance and understand what I'm going through, then I realized even underlying all this emotion, there's something really solid. There's something like what Julia was talking about, something really sweet, something really unchanging. It's constantly there. Then I go, is that what this is? Because, God, whether we're asleep, we're awake, whatever we call it, plug or unplug, all of us always, the deepest part of us know this. We ought to. No one can deny that they go, I don't need, because a lot of people that start to wake up, they always say, this is so familiar, because we are always aware that this is there, we just don't know what it is. So now we are going beneath the emotion now. And throughout the years, like what your question is about, you said the clarity, the focus and all that. It started, like, if I were to use an analogy, like we used to be very scattered. Here and there we get reactive, we get angry, somebody says something to me, we're like this. Then as we start to become aware, our experience starts to like this goes into like a focus, right? It's not that we don't see like our peripheral only limits to this. No, it's just that our attention becomes very, very channeled, right? Our attention,
sharper, right?
Yes, it becomes very, very sharp. So ultimately, the more you get, it's a practice, regular cultivation, like what kung fu, you cultivate this chi, So as your attention become very one pointed, it go like, right? It really, and from there, that's not the end of it. That means now your attention, your focus has to be consistent.
Yes.
Yes, because it used to be like, this is fun, and then we start to do that, and now here, that's not it. That's game over. I'm already waking, and what next? No, it's not that. Because once you become like this, that's when life starts to begin. That's
Actually,
where the fun is.
That's the beginning, because we think the beginning is when we're like, oh, so wonderful. Actually, that's very dispersing, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't say it's not good. It's not about good or bad, but like you say, the more and more focused we become, we don't get moved emotionally too much, and we don't like we don't deny things that happen to us or resist too much. We start getting more and more and more focused, more and more aware. And then when we come to the sharpness that you just described, it's amazing, because this is not about lack of emotion, number one.
Oh, no.
It's not like a mandatorily precisely more aware. No, it's just awareness, but sharper focus.
Yes.
And it's the beginning, because this is when we are like stripped out, uncloaked from noise, I don't know, pollution. We're just like focused, and it doesn't mean we're heartless, okay? But you know what I mean, right, Taraka? And I really admire this. I thank you so much for sharing. I'm so happy, because even when we fall in the water, we're not like a cat, like desperate anymore.
No.
It's not like we're gonna die. We start seeing more than life and death, more than disease or healthiness or blah blah blah. Actually, we can even call it like leaving the polarity aside for a while. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean we're not in the matrix living life, but it's just this focus, right?
Yeah. Actually, there's a couple of things I want to address. One is what you just said, Eddie, and one is what Julia was talking about earlier. I want everyone in the audience not to mistaken. When you wake up, you're in rags and eating porridge every day. No, please don't. Everyone goes, no. I like my life right now. I get to eat noodles and rice and bread. Not just, there's only an analogy, okay? So once you start becoming aware, it's none of that. It's just more you get to see what is real, what's not. That's it. What you choose to eat still is a choice. It's just you have more variety, right? You become more aware of what your body needs too, because it's not just about out there. Because awareness also happens in the body. You start to listen to the body. The body one day decides to have just meat. You eat it. Or some day you go, no, I don't want any of that. I just want to have some fruit. No, you haven't eaten nothing. Your grandma will tell you, you're hungry, you're growing. No, that's all my body needs. I will just eat that. So we become more conscious of all of that, what we do or what we eat or how we function, right? So I watched the metric, all the different metrics. I know the Zion thing is not very appealing, because every time I watch it, I don't like this part, because it's not like.
Actually, the rag part, it's relevant, for at least for me, for a reason, because it doesn't mean it's painful. It doesn't mean it's senseless or deprived from any feelings. Or for me, wearing a rag like they do, it's more of a drop on values. When you're aware, you don't uphold as much values because there is no character being put in the stage as a protagonist all the time anymore.
Yes.
To wear beautiful clothes or blah blah blah. It's just about values and morals dropping. So if you ask me, what brand of rag are they wearing there?
Gucci.
I would say I
Gucci.
don't know.
Gucci rag.
Yeah, Gucci rags or I don't know, H&M rags or
Huh?
the,
Versace. Versace.
I just jump in to
the,
say that these rags could also be thoughts. What kind of thoughts are you wearing now?
the symbolism of the rag to me is the same as the monks when they wear the brownish color, meaning that they're one with the universe. It's like a natural color that you naturally see. It doesn't mean a status anymore. It doesn't mean values or holding a stance or even a thought. Sorry, it's just being one, accepting that. It's more like a uniform of acceptance, let's say. Let's put it that way, but I'm not talking about religion here. It's not about that.
Actually, I'm glad you brought this up because what we're talking about here, I just want to expand. At the end of the day, once you start to wake up to what's real and start to taste that and live that, a lot of things are uncomplicated. You notice that? Like a lot of things you think, oh my God, I must have that $2,000 bag. My girlfriend has that. Like none of that anymore because there's no comparison, because you're no longer quite in the duality, and there's no this need to buy a $5,000 handphone or because then your mind starts to go back into simplicity. I mean, I'm one of those people that love refined things in life. Not expensive things, but refined. I don't care how much it is, and I don't care for many of it. I just want, like minimum and a sweet, really good quality things, refined. And then I used to thought expensive is the way to go. No. Now, to tell you the truth, when people try to give me things, I say, please don't. Not because I don't love you, not because I'm not grateful for all the things, but my house is full of stuff that I don't even touch or use or where they're there. They're just collecting dust. Just so please, if I want something, I'll put it out. My birthday wish, I like to have this because this is what I need, right? Please just don't give me like little things, bottle of this. Like many people give me things, I sometimes I don't even know how to say no because all of these are not really important anymore because your mind starts to go into such simplicity because the need now is different. It's not about fulfilling the ego's idea of status, the ego idea of need for approval or acknowledgement or attention. There's no more of that. So that's why that simplicity, the rag thing. Like you say, but come on, Jesus walk around in rags. He don't care, He's walking in this slipper, the straw slipper, and he doesn't care because all of that is not important. Not that we are going to be walking around rags when we wake up, because you start to find all the things that you think are deemed important that 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 shows the world who you are. No longer, because there's none of that need to do that anymore, because there's not a me to focus on anymore. That little mini me, look at me. Because when you start to wake up, the sense of me even disappears. That's the basic part of it. There's no me anymore because your attention now starts to expand into more than me. It is about us, or even if there's a concept of us.
I'm sure that by now, maybe many people out there might be questioning and curious about. So, how do I get there? How do I wake up? Yeah. And one thing I want to share is that we don't wake up by talking about it.
No, absolutely not.
It's actually, to me, it's a bit tiresome and a little bit boring talking about waking up does not wake us up.
Mm.
Talking about waking up, understanding waking up, we may think that if we understand that, or we go for a retreat that makes us very clear about what waking up is, it was gonna wake us up. I don't think so, because we cannot put information, even wisdom, as a form to replace experience. So this is something I really, with from the bottom of my heart, I want to share with our viewers out there, that if you could see a point where you could go for the experience or learn about it, I would drop the learning. But then, oh, so if I don't learn, how do I get there? So I want to develop this a little bit. So I want to ask you girls, without going through a proper course, if somebody come to you and ask, I would like to wake up, how do I do it? What would you recommend?
Can I say something first? Actually, I wanted to also address the same thing as what Eddie was talking about, because short of the chase of form, chasing after how certain things look like, or when you wake up you don't get emotional anymore, or when you wake up you become very consistently focused and sober and simple, or actually I think all these things, to me, is a secondary kind of curiosity. And there's lots of people who say, okay, there's really great desire to want this fancy thing that seemed to be a high sounding thing, by saying that maybe I go for, can I awaken my kundalini, or I go to this retreat and somebody will stamp you as awakened, or something like that, to bring us back to the actually the main question. Actually, the whole thing is that the focus is on really observing what it is, what am I being in this whole existence. I think that is the main focus of so-called waking up. And if we depart from that origin, then everything else becomes fluff. And you know what I mean? It's like the whole thing about life is that every moment is already an invitation. Every single moment for every single being, right? So it's not so like, oh, how do I get there? It's already here. You just have to observe here. It's here. Every moment is inviting to look at what is. And it doesn't have to be a certain way. When you are like screaming your head off, or you're involved in a tussle or whatsoever, it doesn't mean that you have gone back to sleep or whatever. Yeah. Taraka, you mentioned something about assholes. Can you talk about that? Sorry.
Can we go back to my question first,
No,
please? I would
I
like
am
to ask
answering.
about, without any teachings, any religion,
I'm
or any
answering your
course,
question.
is it okay? What would you guys say if somebody came without religion, without any courses or retreats or session? If somebody asks, I would like to be awakened,
Yes.
how can I? What would you answer? Taraka, for example.
Very simple. Very simple. Go back to nature. That's the freest, most available thing every one of us can do. If you really, really want to wake up to what all there is, and you don't really want to pay for a course, you don't want to follow a guru, you don't want to listen to any teaching, you don't want to be, blindsided by, like, you don't want to be split all over the place by what's right, what's wrong, what should I follow. Go and spend time in nature. Go sit, go fish. I love fishing. They say, actually, it's about catching the fish. No, you get so wrong. That's actually sitting there, just being still, not doing anything, just patient, contemplating. That to me is, that's my joy of fishing, not about the catching the fish, right? It's all of that. It's spending time listening to the water and the breeze blowing through the trees and all of that. Sometimes, so again, too, a lot of time when we're stressed, we're angry, we're upset, we go for a walk. And the best part is if we can go to a park, go to the beach. And then the next thing you know, like, oh my God, I'm calm now, I'm no longer angry, I have more clarity, I know what to do now. Because we're not aware, we're actually getting in touch back with nature again. So nature is very, very important. Of course, Singapore being the concrete jungle that it is, but it's still there, it's still available if we want to do that. That's one of the most favorite place of all time for me to go meditate is on the beach. I'm not a beach person, by the way. I don't go splashing in the water, but to listen to the sound of the waves, to experience the breeze, the grass, that I'm lying on, all that. It is just so like it really like brings me go. It just like almost give me a permission to go say, hey, just let go, just chill. So I would say back to nature.
I like this term you brought, like back to nature, and one of the things that caught my attention is that a lot of people that we see in the media, like Byron Katie or Jeff Foster or Eckhart Tolle, they claim to have awakened when they were in their worst moments, like depression and verge of madness. And like Eckhart Tolle, he got awakened when he was sitting on a bench on a park.
Yeah, extreme grief and sadness that woke him up. Absolutely, but we don't have to do that. It just was too intense for the mind to comprehend, and it overloads the mind. It overloads it to a point that it just kind of, the word I use, annihilate that mind that controls everything. So that's how I see it. But then that's Eckhart Tolle's experience. We don't have to go through that extreme to wake up. But sometimes we do. We're like, well, the joke about sometimes, like God send us messages and give us talent and ask what to do, and we don't listen, and the next thing you know, we keep hitting our head against the wall because we're going nowhere. We can't find a solution, and next thing you know, you're bleeding, and you go, oh God, why you do this to me? He said, no, actually, I was very gentle in the beginning. You don't listen. Then slowly, I didn't bash you against the wall because you keep coming against the wall, and you bash your head, and now you ask me why I'm doing this to you. I didn't do this to you. So a lot of times, some of us do that. For me, I kind of, not like Eckhart Tolle, but I went through really, really dark, deepest anguish and stress and anger and not depression. I didn't even know I was in depression until I came out of it. That I just want out of it. So it was that. But then again, too, a lot of people doesn't have to go through that. They go through many different forms, right? And if you were to, I don't want to use the word enlightenment. If you were to talk to or have any interaction with people that spend a lot of time in nature.
That's very interesting because you mentioned about back to nature, and then when we observe these people, they're sharing, and you talk about their mind being like overwhelmed. I think once the mind start losing its control and overwhelming, and then there's no more linear thoughts anymore, I think that's when they realize, oh, there's something natural about this, because they're not there anymore in that mind.
Yes.
And then I think that's where the little light, the little glimpse shows up,
Yes.
and they're able to see.
It's not that I don't want people to mistaken that, okay, my God, so once I'm enlightened, once I wake up, my sky is clear, there's no clouds, there's nothing, you know. It's not that. It's not that. There will still be thoughts. You know, there's still be thoughts running. The only difference is we used to live in that thought because that thought is in our face constantly. It's almost like, you know, we can't breathe. But then now the thought is there, it's floating like a debris. It's just there. It's moving to consciousness. There are movements. We don't pay attention to it anymore like we used to. It's not part of our experience. It's still there, and it's not going anywhere. Like I'm not going to tell anybody that once you wake up you have no more thoughts. No, that's not the point. Because our mind, the natural state of our mind is to be still. That's very natural. The mind to be still is a very natural thing. Our mind naturally loves being still, but because we're just, you know, like all this impression, all this experience, all this conditioning and belief system and all that starts to take over our psyche. It's just all this is moving through. That's all. And we used to pay a lot of attention. Now we don't anymore. That's the difference. Okay, you still have thought. I won't promise anybody that they will not have thoughts anymore. It's just where you put your attention. You want to put your attention here in the present moment that's very, very still and sweet, or you want to put your attention to all these moving stuff that control your life, right? So that's the difference.
Sometimes people will ask me, okay, then, so I had to control my mind, make my mind still so that I can be aware or awaken. I say, no, because it's impossible.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as mind control or slowing the mind. It doesn't work that way. And
it feels on its own because it's its natural state.
Yeah. And another thing is people think like, oh, then I should think less, or no. Actually, I don't know if it's appropriate to say this, but every single particle, everything is made of thoughts. The reality itself, everything, every script of the matrix is built of thoughts. It's not about denying thoughts, avoiding thinking. It's not about that. Maybe even though the fact that everything is built and exists through thoughts is the very key of, oh, okay, everything's so colorful. I can see all the architecture here and the paintings, but still being aware, you know, it's not by avoidance. Even when we talk about depression and going crazy, it's like, and people getting awakened through that, it's not necessarily through that. And people think, oh, I'm gonna meditate because I have a depression. No. Some of these authors that write books, they even say, hey, don't waste this moment and don't waste this chance, because this could be, through this, you couldn't be aware, you know. Life is giving you that. Nobody's providing you depression, but your own self, you know. So what if that's a good chance, without avoiding or not wanting this to happen, and just stay there. And, you know, bring awareness to it.
Sorry, just now when I said what I said was in answer to your question also, and now I'm also going to say that, you know, what you said now about if we don't have a judgment to it, and then this is an opportunity for seeing. Definitely, it is what I was trying to say just now, that every moment is an invitation. And whatever that is happening, the invitation to observe is always there. And then if we see and our focus is on that, is on that, then there is no waste. Don't waste this moment, like what Eddie was saying. Like even this moment, even now, you know, what is happening? You know, what is it inviting us to see now?
Julia, earlier you asked about,
That's
like the waking up and then going back to sleep, back to zero. Can I address that now? I've been wanting to say that earlier, but then we get complicated.
yeah, okay, please.
For me, it's not so much, when we get distracted, we go back to zero because the light is on, the light is on. That's why I always tease people. I say, listen, enjoy your ignorance right now, enjoy your unconsciousness, because right now it doesn't really, make no difference to you, right? But once you start to wake up, once you start to become aware, everything moves very fast for you. If even the what they call the cause and effect, what you say comes back, your reflection comes back, the universe, everything moves in very fast, because you no longer have to wait long time for it to come. But like, it's gonna hit me back before I said the other day, like it's more, the difference with the waking up part is, the more you started to become more aware, that distraction period is shortened. That's all.
Yeah.
You become aware of it faster than you used to. It took days, and then you didn't realize, or sometimes it even take months. Like, oh my God, it doesn't do that anymore. It's just, sometimes we do things. I mean, like I said, we're human. We go through things. We have emotion. We move through stuff. Even in all of that, when things happen, and all of a sudden, like the universe will send something to let go. Oh shit, I'm doing that. Oh my God, the moment you're aware, that's it, you're back. You don't have to go through that back from zero, start to rolling your ball up the hill again. None of that, because your awareness is so sharp. You know exactly where to put your focus, and you're back. You don't go, wait, Julia, let me breathe first, let me go om first, let me go do, I have to relax first. None of that. You don't need any of that, because the moment you're aware, that's what awareness is about. The moment you're aware, actually you woke up. Your attention is back. You don't have to shift off that, like, let me just adjust my universe a bit to come back. That's the difference. Like in the past, when we're not really awake, we don't even know, like, we kind of have to crawl out of bed, we have to do this, do that, we have to shower, relax, and breathe, and om, and meditation, and all of that, so that we can come back to this spot, this sweet spot. That's all.
Totally. And you mentioned this thing about things in seeing, things that are of human nature, things that seem unconscious, or things that seem crusty and probably conditioned, might fall away, and things, the cycle back to seeing is faster.
Yeah.
I also want to bring up that beyond form, beyond how it looks like, you also allow the automatic self to arise also. So whatever is alive, we always talk about this aliveness. In fact, I think it's very pertinent to also talk about it today. It's like in stillness or in seeing, then what is alive, you also have no fear about the flow of it if it emerges. And then that is different than a reaction. Sometimes the allowing it to happen is part of the whole of who I am too. It's not to say that, like the other day, you were saying that when you crossed the road, there was this woman who was really, really grumpy or something like that, and then you made a decision to allow the flow of energy to
not somebody across the road, somebody that I walked past that started calling me names. yeah. Go on.
So you allowed a certain energy to move through for you to be very stern to her and say, stop this, or and then
it moves through. Yes,
it moves through. Yeah.
The thing is, Julia, sometimes when we see something or we observe something, either whether it triggers us or not, it's not the point. Whether because a lot of us we have certain filters that our experience moves through, right? So sometimes it even while observing, it does filter through something inside of ourselves. So we go, oh, this is not good. It shouldn't be like that. Because when we start to do that, this is also part of judgment. Because we can never understand the game, the God game, I will call it, like what's moving through. I have no idea why things happen the way it does. That's why consciousness or awareness can never be fully understood by the mind. Because our mind would always want to put something into it. Because it is really, whether it's good, bad, ugly, sweet, whatever, it's still part of the duality thing, right? What is happening is what is happening. Good or bad is up to individual how they experience it. That's remember one of our last previous talk, we talked about perfection too. Because everything is moving through has its perfection.
Exactly.
According to whoever is experiencing it, right? So even if there is imperfection that looks like imperfection or ugliness or judgment about what's happening, it's meant to happen that way for whatever reason. Who knows?
Exactly. So this is what I wanted to also point out when we say that every moment is an invitation. It's because the perfection of the moment, of course, we it's not an abstract concept. It is really being able to lift that awareness from what is happening and also, you know, experiencing who I am in this whole of what is happening.
That's where I remember that when you talk about authenticity, the one of the previous talk you just had, and allowing whatever to move through you, regardless, is being real with what is going through. We don't want to censor our experience.
Exactly.
Right? This is very conscious. This is not very conscious. This is acceptable. This is a no thing. Come on, then you're no different from the rest of the 99.999% of people that judges that has duality, you know, there's always good and bad, right and wrong.
Looking at arrival, that is looking at a certain state.
Yes. And
Eddie, what do you think?
You guys mentioned about duality and things like that. And when we are aware and mindful, I think one of the things that Taraka mentioned in the beginning about that narrowing focus is that moving from polarities and duality into oneness. So we don't see things anymore as good or bad.
As separate.
Yeah, we don't look things that way anymore. We don't label much either. Even seeing things as an invitation is a label. So it's like the focus becomes so sharp that we are it, we are the vision, we are the focus itself, and the object of that focusing. So it's almost like becoming nothing. The seer is the seen and also the object of what is being projected. So at that point, we don't know. It's actually unknown duality or polarities anymore. The unknowing of that means that we are not in a mode to acknowledge that anymore, because we are not attaching cold oils everywhere and making meaning of things anymore. So it's very difficult to explain this because if we're not going through the experience, we're being too abstract, and maybe, I don't know, maybe out there we might even seem arrogant, but I'm truly wishing blessings to everyone to see this.
But
Really.
what you were saying about going through the experience, maybe you can expound on it a little bit more, because that in itself can mean many different things to many, right? Go on and tell us what this going through the experience
Okay.
entails.
A few days back, I had a stomach flu, and I couldn't tell whether I was having a fever or not. Though it was a sunny day, I was in my room feeling cold. So I called a few people, and they say, "Why don't you go and check in?" Because I was saying, "Oh, I don't have a thermometer, so I don't know if I have a fever." And they say, "Hey, why don't you just go to 7-Eleven, lah? You just put your head there and you see, or go to the mall or something." And I'm like, are they really aware what they're saying? Because once I step in there, and then they see I have fever, there'll be a red alert. They'll immediately call the police and hold me there. So this is not what I'm aiming for. So what happened is that I fasted for long hours in my room. I stayed there in that pain. And if I took medicine, no, I didn't. I think I had like half a kg of charcoal and carbon eating to detoxify. So when I say go through the experience, is that should it be a fever? Should it not be? Whatever we're going through, just like drop the label, just stay there. Just stay in the heat. Don't avoid the fire. To the point where I didn't know if I was deeply sick, if I would die or whatever. But I didn't feel like going to a hospital or 7-Eleven, check my temperature in the doorway.
And then run away.
Yeah, and then run away because you're gonna call the police and say, "This is a potential
COVID, whatever.
Yeah. So thank God I'm recovered and I'm just here. And I just would like to invite people to just stay there and go through the pain where you're on the verge of seeing the abyss between life and death. These are moments where we can learn a lot about ourselves, not theoretically, not learning as information, but just observing ourselves and be more and more aware, because the pain can be so excruciating that there's no bad or good pain. The focus is just that.
Yes.
To the point that if you're not aware, if you're not in meditation, there's only panic and everything else, every thought. You are hostage of every feeling, every thought, every emotional turmoil, everything.
Every fear.
So should we be aware in order to avoid that? No, absolutely not. I'm just inviting people to allow themselves to get back to nature. This is exactly who we are, what we are. It's not to prevent something. It's not to become healthier or feel less pain. It's not about that. That's not the takeaway.
One of the things that we never really touch on much about this whole deal about waking up too.
You have to speak louder, Taraka. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you have to put the mic close.
Yeah, because this thing keep moving back. Is it better now without holding
Please
on
hold
to that?
it there.
Earlier was quite okay, right? Is it better now?
When you hold near is
Hold it.
much better.
Hold it,
Okay.
please. Yeah.
Okay. I forgot what I want to say now. Oh, one of the things we never really touch on in all of this experience of being awake, not awake, and allowing things to happen, is the word a surrender. Because
Thank you so much.
yeah, is that something you wanted to have it bubble out? Because
I mentioned the word allowing just now. I was meaning the same thing to say that, you know.
Yeah, allowing, surrendering, because even though sometimes we talk about it, I let it go. I surrendering, but in reality, we don't really fully do that. We will surrender the comfortable part of that, the part that is still within our comfort zone to let go. But sometimes we still hold on to the residue or the little bits and bobs about what we call our favorite triggers or whatever word we want to use it. So in all of this experience of waking up and experiencing being alive, is we have to constantly, consistently, in every moment, surrender. Surrender not only our thoughts, our feeling, our action, our observance, what we observe as right or wrong, what we are feeling, and the world around us, everything. Because at the end of the day, once you really woke up and experienced life, being alive in this reality, then there's no room to hold on to anything, because as the moment you hold on to something, you're back again, back into this what we call the going back. Everything go back into the background again. Your experience start to move backward instead of right here. So allowing is one word, because sometimes people hate the word surrender. Why should I surrender? That means I'm losing, I'm being weak. So there's a lot of misconception what surrender is. But just everything. I'm talking about not just 99.99% of surrender, is fully 200% of surrender. That means 200% in your outside world, 100% in the outside world, and 100% in the inside world, both. So point
Taraka,
one is
thank you so much for bringing that up, because when we are talking about allowing, it's very easy to say that, like, oh, of course I'm allowing law. It's very irresponsible. Sometimes I think it's a bit like a hypocrite. Of course you're allowing. You cannot stop events. You cannot stop experience or whatever is happening. I'm talking about this surrender you're talking about is a different thing.
Yes.
Surrender and allowing is different. Allowing is to when you think you have a control and then you're allowing, giving permission to. It's not that.
What I
No,
mentioned
wait.
was
Let me finish what I'm saying here, please.
allowing the self
Let me
to go
please finish.
into the experience.
I'm talking about the surrender that Taraka is saying here.
Mm-hmm.
Surrender, allowing, for me is total different thing. Completely, it's not the same thing. For me, surrender doesn't even come to the point of where allow, disallow, or do I have a control to allow things. Surrender doesn't even come to that point of action, decision, choosing. It's just like, I'll give you an example of surrender. You put a leaflet of paper. I don't know if you can see. Put in the water, and just it will just flow. It's completely given, like nothing, no decision, nothing. You just surrender, really.
There's no resistance.
Yeah, there's not even a decision to flow or not. It may sink, it may not sink. It will flow or not flow. Where it will take it, it's basically in that the whole meditation. People can call it prana kung fu meditation or whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean the label is not important, but surrender for me is that. It's not allowing, disallowing, or whatever. It's just fully in every sense there. Just here,
Mm.
like you said, something the analogy is 100% in and 100% outside.
Mm.
It's like a balloon or a bucket full of water inside the water in the
Mhm.
ocean.
Mm.
Is the water inside? Is the water outside?
Mhm.
Is a bucket allowing?
Mhm.
No,
Mm.
completely
Mm.
not.
Mm.
Thank you
Now,
for sharing the 100% in and out, because
Mm.
yeah,
can you allow me to
sure.
to
Thank you.
just clarify? I sorry I interrupted. I didn't want to just jump in like that. I just wanted to say that when I mentioned allowing in the context of what I was saying just now, it was
Mm.
the allowing of my own perception to go in 100%. So
Mhm.
I'm not talking about allowing things to happen or not. It's definitely not about the resistance. It's
Mm.
about that yes to the self to step in
Mhm.
100%, so that that surrender could be total and
Mm.
totally not in opposition to what you were talking about.
Mhm.
Mm.
Mm. You know, just to expand a little bit more about surrendering. Um, most of us will walk around. That's this me. I'm Taraka. I'm a teacher. Blah blah blah. We have labels, right? And then when we start to realize actually there's a bigger part of our experience that is no longer this little me is no longer valid. Uh, like it's no longer we move beyond that little self, that little s, into a bigger part of us, our experience, and this surrendering thing too. It's not a religious context I'm talking from when I use the word God. To me, it's up to you. You can use cosmic intelligence, whatever word you want to use, the source. It's almost allowing that, like, because if we don't have this little me self, it's no longer there. There isn't this little will that we function on anymore. Like, this is my idea, my plan, my choice, my will. There's no longer even that anymore, because it kind of melts or moves into this bigger uh, cosmic consciousness that is connected. There's no separation, right? So the surrendering now is actually moving into a higher, bigger intelligence. So, we hear this a lot. Okay, my will or God's will, or my will or the highway, and all of that. So most of the time we live our life going, it's my plan, my choice, me, right? But as we start to wake up, there's no longer this me. Is this whole collective thing? Then we surrender to that. That
Yeah.
means we are connected to a bigger picture, right? We are. It's not so much like, oh my God, I surrender. That means this little me disappear. The world. No, it's none of that. That means our clarity, our focus, our peripheral is no longer even 360 degrees. We're talking about infinite peripheral, right?
Exactly.
So
Thank
so
you.
the surrender is actually opening up, or taking the invitation to experience life in a broader, bigger sense beyond this us me, this little time and space me.
Thank you for the beyond sense.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Because a lot of time people say, no, you surrender, that means I no longer exist. But actually, that is when we really become alive and exist. And we like that. If there's a meaning to existence, that's it. Because we are now moving back into the collective consciousness that builds up the everything. So
Dr. Julia just mentioned about surrendering our mind. I mean, allowing our mind to go deep in this. But I think, based on what you're saying, Taraka, there is no there's no my mind, you know.
Mm.
It's like everything melted in one thing.
Yes.
It's like, and not even sense is segregated, you know. So does it feel hot? Does your sense say it's hot or cold? No. So does that mean you don't have sense? Are you senseless at that moment? No, it's not that either.
Mm.
It's this higher thing you just mentioned. It's like undescribable, the peripheral and everything.
Mm. Mm. Yes. And what Julia was talking about, the allowing thing, actually, to some people, it's quite relevant because, again, too, like I said, there's a lot of judgment about surrendering. Because in the beginning, I had big issue about surrendering. Oh my God, I was a control freak. Or maybe I'm still.
Irresponsible.
Yes, you know, like every one of us, come on, whether we agree to it or not, whether we admit to it or not, we're all control freaks. That's why we're still living a separate life, right? Our mind is separate from reality. But once we start to see all the stuff that is like an illusion, we start to, you know, like give up control here and there. It's not like all of a sudden we just one day we decided to wake up, go, oh, I'm fully surrendered. No. Right, because there's still comfort zone, you know. No, I'm comfortable giving up this, but I'm not comfortable surrendering that. There's still this negotiation going on, but then ultimately there is not even a choice to surrender anymore because that choice is taken away from you because all of a sudden you wake up, it's like, bah! Your life don't belong to just the little me anymore. The life belongs to this cosmic intelligence that rules everything, right?
I hear a lot of people saying like, I don't want to be a hippie. No, I still have to wake up every day and dress my kids and take them to school
and pay my bills and all that thing.
I cannot be responsible like that.
Yes.
You know, it's crazy.
Can I invite Taraka to talk about the asshole thing that you mentioned? I don't want to let it float away. People will think that I'm nuts.
No, this is a joke actually. When I first heard about, somebody asked a question quite a while ago. I don't remember, maybe it was in a meeting or something like, what happens when you wake up, when you are enlightened, right? So the reply that came, it wasn't me. The reply that came from the audience or some wise man, he goes, well, if you're an asshole before you're enlightened, you'll still be an asshole after you're enlightened. None of that is going to change because you're not all of a sudden wake up like you have two wings, white fairy wings, and your angelic thing with hello. None of that. But it's just the difference is the state or the space where you are living that assholeness. I didn't say that because I don't think it was good for live audience. But then with Julia and Eddie, they said, no, I think it's okay to say that.
I think it's sort of like makes a impact in a way that, brings across the point, not to bring across the point that continue to be an asshole. Of course not.
No.
Of course not.
No. The thing is, too, even when we judge somebody as an asshole, come on, to be honest, do we fully know what this person is really? Like what he's gone through or why he said the thing he said? We don't. We only assume this is a scenario from what we experience of that person. So we label him as a saint or an asshole. It's still judgment, right? It's still duality.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
This is as a form of a joke.
It's a joke.
That's not really like all of a sudden you have this halo shining and you have this glow like Buddha glow. It's not any of that. But the thing is, once you start to wake up, even if you were an asshole before, this behavior again to start to kind of drop. It leaves like things that you like. If you're nasty in your words or you have this habit of bullying people or whatever, all of this is not so much that person decided one day, I don't want to be a bully anymore. Now I'm awakened, I'm a saint. None of that, because all of a sudden all this behavior don't exist anymore because it gets dissolved on its own. So this person might act differently or say different things now, not because he's aware he was an asshole before, but it's just simply all this stuff get dissolved. So that's
Yeah.
what the waking up or living life from a waking state is about. It's totally life starts to begin, because things that you hold dear that doesn't it's not even what they call, it doesn't even serve you. We also hang on for life. No, this is good for me. This is, I need this, I need that. But now once you start to wake up, all this, yeah.
Can we give 10 minutes to talking about what you just said? Life
Oh.
has just begun. Like, in what way?
You want to say something, Eddie, or I'm just
Yeah,
going to go?
I would like to say
forward?
something. Thank
Okay.
you for inviting me. I would like to say that whether we are assholes or not, I don't take that as a joke in a meaning of that it's excusable or not. I'm not going there. But even being an asshole, I see as an event. Like Taraka, I don't know if you're angry sometimes or not. Or
I feel, yeah, I get pissed, yes.
so it's like even the anger, you can, if we look at it as something natural, like an event, let's say like raining, and we don't have to see it as anger, okay? We don't have to
As what?
see as anger or as an asshole. But I'm sure in your role as a leader, there could be times where you were admired, or maybe were times where you were not as much admired for any reason. It doesn't really matter. But that could be one of the key things, that when people were in disbelief of a leadership, and if they were able to go beyond that, they could see, oh, wait, I'm going through this difficulty with this person, but it just drives me more into myself. I'm able to see my frustrations and my anger or whatever. So it's not about labeling someone being as or not. Everyone around us triggers us something different, because they are also our experience. We are accountable for all that.
Absolutely.
So, yep. I wanna invite all of us to see that, oh, we are awakened, therefore we're gonna change. We won't be assholes anymore, or we will
need
naturally
to be.
become better people, or no, we're not people anymore. We're walking towards perfection, and then until enlightenment. I'm sorry, it's not necessarily that way. And whatever assholeness come from anyone who got awakened, I think it's a good opportunity, because it's very easy for us to say, oh, I thought that guru was really awakened, but I saw him angry the other day with the disciple. Oh, no. It's definitely not.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
I don't want to go there. I don't want to go for a progression or an improvement, because we awoke. Therefore, we begin this race now to enlightenment. Please.
But could you also, can we stay on that question? Like, then what is it then that life begins in a different way now? Can maybe Ed, both of you can talk about it. We can all talk about it, but I would like to focus a little, give some time to that. Taraka, when you mentioned that, what does it mean? And yeah.
Well, actually, thank you for asking that, Julia, because it opens me up to talking about this word, magic. right? Because one of the things, when we start to really start seeing life as they're supposed to be, the beauty of creation is magical. It's not just here and there flighty, because our experience becomes so alive and so vibrant. It things that we don't even think can exist, it starts to show up. I'm talking about not like, wow, we see, like angels flying and we see, yeah, maybe you will see angels flying, who knows, or miracles. But this thing happens all the time. It just, we are so distracted, we don't even see it. We're not even aware of it. When we start to live life, when we say really, truly, truly being alive, everything dance. Even the mind say, no, 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 this is not possible. I mean, logically, scientifically, it's not possible, but it happens in my life. That's why I always say my life is constantly made of miracles. People that think they cannot be possible, because the word impossible no longer exists for me. I don't know, over the years, or maybe in the beginning, when this word starts to disappear, because to me, there's no such word. Everything is possible, but something takes a bit longer to unfold, right? Or unless it doesn't serve you, then it don't show up in your life. But everything that you ever want, everything you want to see, taste, feel, touch, it's all there. But where are you? My question is, hello, showing up or not today? Right? Remember one of our previous talk, we said, very simple, you just show up. You may not hear, nothing happens. But when you hear, everything happens. So the beauty around us is our perception of the world. Or we can choose to see the opposite, the ugliness, the injustice, right? The war, the fear, the bullying. Yeah, it's there. I'm not saying we live our life like a shrunken turtle, the head, like what they call the ostrich in the sand. No, I'm not saying that. It's still all of these things happening, but it doesn't shake our foundation like what it used to, because we can see it from a very different perspective. We experience life now not from this very what they call a downward spiraling experience. Because once we start focusing on fear or injustice or all of this negative thing, our experience starts to, like what they call it, it's like a current. We go downward.
Suction downwards.
Yeah, we get sucked down, and when we start to experience life from a very different like from a place of love and beauty and creation, our experience starts to move like that. Which I'm glad you said that, because it just triggered a memory that I wanted to talk about in terms of our experience in consciousness. You guys heard of David Hawkins' work? Yeah. You know, he has this scale. He has this scale. Yes. I have to confess, last few days I was looking through all my photos, all my downloads, whatever, from my old phone and my new phone, because I actually, quite a while ago, I found this actual chart that I've been looking for many, many years. It talks about human consciousness and where our calibration comes.
Is it possible to hold a bit and I check in with Eddie and see what he has to say about this life has just begun thing? Any reflections there before we go deep into that?
Okay.
You mean life has just begun after awakening, you mean? Actually,
any difference for you?
Actually, I don't have that reference in terms of timeline. I think life was always there, has begun even before we got awakened. Well, my sharing is the same, very similar to what Taraka says. If we stay on that, and we are in surrender, and that focus narrows more and more and more.
Mm. Mm.
Then let's ask Taraka about what she wants to share about Hawkins.
Yeah, actually, this was one of the things I just want to briefly touch on. In his scale, it talks about all the like our survival mode thing, like from fear, from necessity, survival mode, all the way. There's a scale from 0 to 600 and above, right? And the point where it makes that switch is at 200 when we start to experience love and above. So if you guys can Google, because it's all available online, but I just cannot find this particular one that not only talk about the scale, it talks about once a person reach a level of calibration of 500 and above, which is when you start to experience bliss and peace, constant. I'm not talking about flightingly, constant peace, constant connection. There's no sense of separation. There's what the word, I learned a new word, it's called infallible. Infallible. That means
Infallible?
Infallible. Do you know that word?
Infallible, right? Infallible. You can't push the person over.
Yeah, like it's like your experience is so solid that it can't be shaken, can't be like push a person over kind of thing.
Yeah.
And once you reach that like 500 and above the caliber, what is this effect you have? Not only to yourself.
Oh, ineffable.
In fact, is that the word?
He talked about ineffable, not infallible. Ineffable. So it's like, again, it's the same thing. So so ineffable, it just means you cannot be shaken. Your mood cannot be shaken. Yeah.
Not just mood, like your foundation is so solid that even though you shake a little bit, like the breeze, yes, then you kind of shake a bit, then you're back to this solid thing. So and from there, this particular chart that I really wanted to talk about is what is happening once we start to wake up, once we start to have a taste of this amazing, sweet life without suffering space. That means not only we, like, of course, we're feeling all of this good stuff, and then of course our family around us, the closest to us, is being affected by it, then our neighbors, our community, and all of that. But as a person starts to wake up, we're no longer in this little, again to what we talk about, the little mini mode, the me mode, the small me. Then we move into expanding into this collective mode of non-separation, right?
This one you're talking about,
yeah, this is the one with, this is the caliber, this is all the, you see, infallible. That's a new word I learned, right? Yeah. So you see, at 200 is the point where we start to move, like the courage, right? The neutrality, the willingness, the acceptance, all that, it starts to move up. So let's talk about once we hit about 500, which is when love, all of that starts to like become very consistent. The joy, you see, the joy is like, it's non-stop. There's always this consistent inner joy that moves outward, and the peace and the enlightenment. So when a person moves into that 500 number and above, this person's life no longer belongs to an individual anymore. Like what Eddie would use the word, this character, right? It's no longer a character anymore, because it's moving into a bigger play of universal character, is just a character. So as we move up, and this particular chart that I couldn't find, literally put a number to as one person wakes up. How many people it affects by just waking up? Wish I have that, I surrender to it. I said, God, if I cannot find that, never mind. I just speak from my memory or what I remember. It brings up millions of people. What it meant by that, but I think it was something like 8 million or 10 million people at a particular number as he wakes up. So once we wake up and affects all these people. What does that mean? Does that mean all of a sudden all these people start to wake up? Yeah, it's like a popcorn effect, we call it. In consciousness term, it's like you see one corn start to pop. Next thing you know, the surrounding popcorn will go pop, 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 you know? Like all of this popcorn effect. And next thing you know, the whole bowl, everything is popped because of one first popcorn that decided to pop first. So all of this again too, because it's connected, there's no longer this sense of separation or whatever. It means like when we wake up and start to see reality as what it is, it will affect the people around us to start seeing that too. Just like, again, this is something that we joke about or talk about. I wish I have a bowl of consciousness. I feed it to you, you wake up, you wake, you know, like you eat it and you wake up. No, it is when I start to wake up and I start to experience life in a waking, alive state, I start to notice everybody also very alive. Maybe it was my old judgment, my old sleeping experience that I experienced them from. They were asleep. But now I wake up, I say, hey, everybody also quite conscious. You get what I'm saying? It's not that you guys all of a sudden wake up with me. No, because it was my perception that blocks me from experiencing people as they are. Ultimately, the highly, really ascended, self-realized master above 700 and above, because there are, I mean, we're talking about Brahman and all these expansions. Oh my God, everywhere, everybody, they see each other as God. Right? Because it's only a concept for a lot of people, right? I'm God, you're God. That means everybody God, there's nothing to do anymore. No, actually, there's not. It's only a concept we're talking about. So what happens now? Now that you wake up, you know, the main theme, the main topic of this conversation, this dialogue is now you wake up and then what, right? This is partly.
So what? The implication?
Yes, the implication. So that's why I'm talking about once we surrender into the bigger picture, we are no longer doing this only for an individual or for our surrounding small limited group of friends and relatives and people we love, because everything we do, everything we say, everything we don't think, I don't say everything you think, because our mind no longer think of things anymore, because it's very naturally very still. So all of that starts to affect all of consciousness. You have an impact, every one of us. Just the same way as people that are very bitter, angry, stressed, and whatever they say, they say words are energy, words are energy, thoughts are energy, right? It affects the world. The same way, when we wake up, all our experience is still and silent and peaceful and filled with love. It also affects consciousness. Come on, it has to be. If negative can affect, positive also can affect, right? We're still talking in this duality term. So what happens now? Because now you're no longer an individual working for what they call an individual will, because everything you do, touch and say or share has the impact in all of everything, not only now, throughout eternity. In the past, it will affect the past, it will affect the future too. Like now, everything you do. That's how powerful we are. When we wake up, it's not just, oh, everything is beautiful now, colorful, I taste better, I see better. No, because my God, they say, with great power comes great responsibility. We heard something like that before, right? Right? Something like that, right? Yes. Like when you truly wake up, you become like a superhero, of the stages, right? So at that level now, everything you do has an impact. So which means it makes everything we decide, even though there's no choice, but everything we choose to play with affects everything around us. Not just in this reality, in all reality, in all time and space.
Eddie,
that's how
wanted to say something.
Yeah.
Taraka, you said something very interesting where we don't belong anything anymore. Like even to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
We start losing the sense of individual.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
And thank you for bringing that up, because I don't know. I'm glad you brought it up, because
I know there's something coming out. I can feel it. Come on, let it out, Eddie. It's coming through.
if someone did not experience that, it's impossible to say it, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's not theoretical something.
Yes.
I'm just grateful you said that.
The what?
I'm just grateful you said that.
Mm-hmm. 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 Because in that way, it gives us a very different perspective. It's no longer a little me thing that all the little important things that are important in our life from the little me concept, because now there is a bigger thing in play now. There's a bigger stage now. If we're all little characters, now we're in a universal stage, no longer in the little, limited stage. If you want to use the character and the role that we play a bigger role now. And I'm sure if you ask this question has always been asked in my teaching, like in the meetings that we have. My teacher will say, listen, all of you raise your hand. If any of you feel that since you're a child or since you're young, you feel like you came here to do something great. And most of the people will raise their hand because we don't know what it is, but we just know we're here to do something. Like we are here to do something great, something amazing. I asked that question when I was 5 years old. I asked the star, why am I here? What am I doing? Oh, what is it? What's my purpose? At 5 years old, I asked that question, and I'm like almost 60 this year, right? And I go, oh okay. I finally got my answer, kind of. So it just gives people if you want to use the word hope, maybe, but you give people a bigger picture now to look beyond that limited view in life. Because you're here, we're all here to do something amazing. We're here to live consciousness or whatever we want to call it, or to make an impact, to help heal, whatever the word we use. We're here to do that. So even if this individual self disappeared, oh my God, now we get to play in the big arena of consciousness.
The bigger arena of...
Sorry.
You like that word? The bigger arena of consciousness.
I see what you're saying, and I must say that at this point, it's not by choice, or it's not by finding that. We don't look for that, and
No.
maybe that finds us,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
What I wanted to say, when we say bigger arena, roles, all these things, suddenly it became like an attachment to identity all over again. It could be, but I just want to share. Okay, I'm a mom, and then I have a little girl who is growing up, of course, right? So we had a conversation about this greatness. It's like what do I want to become one day, you know? And then we talked about it, and both of us came to the happy point where happy place where we agreed that, you know, we can envision a lot of things. A lot of people can say that I want to be this great leader. I have this purpose dream where I came and then I was like holding the fire or something like that. But what will lead us there is probably the aliveness of the moment. Whatever that we choose, let's say even in this present moment, I want to play that game. I want to play that basketball game because it gives me so much joy.
Yes.
But it's not the basketball game. The basketball game is, and that affinity towards it, that aliveness that comes through it, is only giving us a clue to that aliveness that is with it. So, and we keep on following that aliveness.
Yes.
And we keep on following that aliveness without end.
Yes.
And that is the greatness. And that so-called like excitement about waking up, to me, is helping each other find that aliveness. That's all, to me.
Yes.
And you know, it is so crusty and so damp and dark when people are, I mean, are shrouded in that conditioning, feeling that the fear of inability to step out, and everything is just like a sad potentiality. I think potentiality, yesterday I was talking to Eddie about it, like it sounds like a dead word when unless we step into something. It might mean we sacrifice certain choices to pursue something, and maybe we can revisit it other times, but it's the fear of not stepping in, not showing up, not living it, or living whatever that we is alive to us in each moment. So yeah, that's what I want to share.
I just love, it's so beautiful, Julia, what you just said. Like, even as you say, it's not even about the words you speak, it's about the aliveness that comes from you when you say it. It's beyond words, right? You know, like, it's indescribable. But when you say this alive, this passion, I can close my eyes and I can feel it. I can feel it because it is this, again, the word aliveness, this totally passion, right? And I just love it because it moves through. That's how, when we are absolutely so centered in our core, we can feel. Can you imagine, you know, like I said, the popcorn effect thing? One pop, the other go, pop, 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 pop. Like they don't even have a choice anymore. They start to pop on its own, right? Because that's what our passion and our liveliness, our enlivened heart. When one person has this enlivened heart, you don't even need to say anything even. You just sit there with enlivened heart. Trust me, somebody sitting beside you, they will start to come alive on their own. That's how powerful we are. Yeah. And if we can do it at an unconscious level, can you imagine how we can do it when we are fully awakened to that potential? This is truly an invitation, and to let the audience and anyone who's listening right now to know how amazing every one of us, and how relevant, I will use the word, how relevant every one of us is. No one is mistakenly being put on this earth for no reason. Everything is in a perfection, how every one of us is put here and showing up. Right, the relevancy. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Eddie, you want to say something?
I want to say that this podcast was really amazing.
Are we over time again? Are we over time?
Much
over time. Taraka and Dr. Lim, I want to say thank you for this podcast today. And I was like really
blissed out now.
Really out of myself, like in meditation. Like,
yes,
I appreciate every little bit of accuracy you said, Taraka, also, because you reflect on the experience and not much of the theory. I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you. Thank you for, again, this amazing opportunity to share that, right? And allow this dialogue, this narrative to come true. And for you, both of you, I want to really, I never said this before, thank you for opening up this space of timeless conversation. We just don't know who is listening in. We don't know anybody understand what these three idiots are talking about. You know, like this, you understand what I'm saying? Or maybe if it just planted a seed somewhere, even now, in the future or in the past, doesn't matter. If it's to even just do that, it's all absolutely worth it, because I want to thank you guys for
Thank you.
this platform. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah,
fact,
I
Me
just
too.
want, yeah, and thank you for also being here, showing up, because I just want to share one last thing before I go, which is the
Mhm.
pain or the hurt that I feel every time I ask someone
Mhm.
about what makes you feel alive,
Mhm.
and they say I don't know, and they say life is so boring. So it hurts me. It hurts me at a visceral level. So I just want to, that's why it gives me so much joy to see expansion, growth, and people coming to their aliveness. So
Mhm.
on that note, I
I
want
want to
to
quickly
say,
share with you that one of
Okay.
our viewers just shared with me about what Taraka said.
You want to share with us?
Oh, my friend just said that. Let me check here. Taraka was talking about beyond. She just used that word. But what's amazing is that a lot of my friends in Thailand, they keep telling me, oh, I don't understand English very well, so your podcast is difficult. And I must say that I always answer them like, it's not about the language,
Mhm.
because maybe even people that have perfect fluent English,
Mhm.
they might not understand.
Yes. Yes.
So today I'm quite happy because my friend's English is not as fluent, but
Mhm.
she couldn't understand what Taraka says. And I think, like, even I understand what you say. I think maybe people are connecting to your experience. So I'm very grateful for that.
But also, it's deeper than the peripheral, the outside. You know, like words and talking
Yeah.
English and all that. Because
Yes.
the silence, the underlying reality is there for all of us. We're connecting at that level. And thank you.
Sometimes I think language is just distraction. But
It is.
anyways, we
It's
have
very
to use.
limited. It's very limited, but we do our best to communicate and interpret what
Yes.
we're experiencing. That's all.
thank
So,
All right.
you.
yeah,
Thank you.
can I just say again, you know, every time after your dialogue with you guys, I have an intro talk on Sunday, because I'm actually teaching a class, a weekend class, next weekend.
Okay.
Next weekend. So if anyone wants to come for the free introduction talk to what I teach, and just even have a casual conversation and want to ask questions, you're welcome to. Sunday at 1 p.m. The link will be posted in the comment after this video or this live thing. So, and thank you both of you. I love talking to you guys
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
Yeah. And thank you, audience, whoever, come on, fire us with questions. Come on, I want some questions.
Thank you,
Yeah.
both of you.
Thank
Love
you.
you.
See you next
Bye.
time. Bye.
Yes, ciao, baby.
Ciao.